Where's my Spider-Man trailer? No Spider-Man No Way Home trailer as of this recording, although we do expect it anytime. But there has been a potential plot leak for No Way Home. We'll talk about it on the other side. And welcome to the Best Damn Nerd Show. The microphone alchemist James Kincaid here with you to talk a little bit about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and the rumored plot for No Way Home, the latest in the MCU Spider-Man genre, the Spider-Man that, much maligned by me. So let's see if this plot leak maybe helps my sort of outlook on where the MCU Spider-Man is going. This comes to us from the Cosmic Wonder. He did a video on it, so let's go ahead and patch some of that in right now.
I will start with this plot leak, which again sounds really, really good, but I don't know if I want it. And after you hear the plot leak, you'll all have to let me know what you think about it in the comments down below.
It sounds good,
so
but he doesn't know if he
feel
wants
the vibe for it. But it sounds very legitimate, and of course, as the teaser comes out and some people have actually seen it, we get more and more leaks, so it could be very legitimate. So let's dive right in. It says, Peter is on the run after the identity reveal in Spider-Man Far From Home. Ned and MJ are with him since they're accomplices to his crimes. And accomplices and crimes are both in quotes. It then says that Dr. Strange, at Happy's request, finds them in a homeless shelter undercover where he brings them back to the Sanctum and tells them to lay low while he figures out a way to fix everything. There's actually a story in the comic line where Dr. Strange, Mr. Fantastic, and Iron Man actually help erase the memory of Spider-Man/Peter Parker from everybody in the world. So Dr. Strange could definitely figure out a way to fix this whole identity crisis. But then it goes on to say, in the Sanctum, Peter comes across a sort of bigger on the inside prison where Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Sandman from the Raimi universe and the Lizard and Electro from the Amazing Spider-Man universe are being held. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin manages to trick Peter into thinking that their universe's Spider-Man were corrupt and killed them, and tells them that Peter needs to release them so they can save their own universes.
I can see Willem Dafoe
Peter
being
ends
that
up freeing them, and they escape into the city. It then says that Doctor Strange then shows up and tears Peter a new one. He explains that he had been holding them in this prison due to the instability in the multiverse connected to each dimension's Oscorp experimenting with interdimensional travel, and he says that Peter has a responsibility now to stop them. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin leads the villains to the MCU Oscorp building to try and steal prototype interdimensional technology. Peter tries to stop them, but he gets his butt kicked and thrown aside. Strange ends up rescuing him and says that they're going to need more help, and Strange and Peter travel into the Raimiverse and into the Amazing Spider-Man universe, and we see how the Peters are living after the conclusion of their series. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is married to MJ, and they have a daughter. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is now a college professor. And I would personally really love to see this. I would really love to see Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man with MJ having a kid living a somewhat normal life, and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man as a professor. I would love to see both of these, and I really hope this happens. Especially since we were going to get a fourth Tobey Maguire Sam Raimi Spider-Man, and never did. The plot leak goes on to say, through their connection to their home universes, the villains sense that their Spider-Men are likely on their way. They use the Oscorp device to open a one-way portal into the Amazing Spider-Man universe, with the Amazing Spider-Man Rhino barging through. The Sinister Six are Goblin, Ock, Sandman, the Lizard, Electro, and the Rhino. Willem Dafoe's Osborn realizes the way to open two-way portals and thus get back to their own universes is to power the Osborn device with a Stark power core. The Green Goblin ends up getting this device while the other Sinister Six distract the Spider-Man, allowing him time to get it from Stark Industries. The Sinister Six go to battle with all three Spider-Men at the Statue of Liberty. The Green Goblin plans on using the Statue of Liberty to open portals back to their own worlds and to trap the Spider-Man here, so they can no longer interfere with their plans in their own respective universes. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is beaten way harder than the other younger Spider-Man and ends up dying after the battle. And this is where I start to get kind of really mad and upset because I definitely don't want this to happen, but I'll talk about it more at the end. Norman
Yeah, I definitely
Osborn's
don't want
Green
that to happen
Goblin
either.
finally shows up at the end with the device and Ned. Norman Osborn activates the device, but they manage to
Great,
stop
Ned.
him and protect Ned in a 2v1 fight with him. But the Green Goblin manages to miss the two Spider-Man with a pumpkin bomb and ends up killing Ned. Another part that
I
they
hope
get really
that
mad
happens.
about. Tom Holland's Spider-Man nearly kills the Green Goblin, but Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man stops him from becoming a villain like them. The Sinister Six get locked back up in Strange's prison, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man attend Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man's funeral in the Raimi universe, and then seemingly part ways. Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the MCU ends up turning himself in, but he ends up being successfully defended from murder charges by his lawyer, Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. However, his secret identity issue is not resolved as everybody still knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. One of the final scenes is of Tom Holland's Spider-Man going up to Ned's grave and talks about how he feels responsible for his death. It's at this point that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man shows back up in his universe, and he gives the responsibility talk to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Tom Holland's Spidey realizes that Ned, like Uncle Ben, Tony Stark, and Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, would want him to still be a hero. It then says that the final swing is of both Tom and Andrew's Spider-Man in the streets of the MCU New York. Now, this plot leak overall sounds
All right. I'll tell you what I think about it. A lot of it sounds plausible because a lot of it's the stuff that I have issue with MCU Spider-Man. And I want to say off the top, I don't take issue with Tom Holland's performance or portrayal from his acting chops. I think he was a good casting. I think he's been given the unenviable task of not being Spider-Man, but being Iron Spider, while Marvel continues to hawk them as Spider-Man movies. But what do I mean with this rumored plot leak and, you know, the Cosmic Wonder here? This is making the rounds, so I have to treat it at least as somewhat legitimate, even though still firmly speculative. The stuff that seems, you know, very legitimate is this continued obsession with Tony Stark, Stark Tech. Everything with MCU Spider-Man has to revolve in some way, shape, or form around Tony Stark and his sphere of influence over MCU Peter Parker as sort of this new proxy Uncle Ben, which I hate. I've hated it from the absolute jump. Spider-Man, the first effort with him in Civil War was fine. You know, you got Tom Holland's portrayal, I think in Civil War was the best we got from MCU Spider-Man because we got to see the most of Spider-Man shine through. He wasn't just in an Iron Spider suit being this fusion of Iron Man and Spidey. So the idea that this, even with all this multiverse stuff happening, the idea that in spite of all that, all this convoluted stuff, it still all comes back to, well, we need some Stark Tech. So yeah, I could see that happening. I have no interest in seeing Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man get killed. The worst thing about this whole plot line, though, well, it's the best of times and it's the worst of times. I would love for Ned Leeds from the MCU to get blown away by a pumpkin bomb. He is awful. Spider-Man supporting cast in the MCU, I think, is just atrocious in general. From Aunt May on down, I don't like really any of them. I don't like their take on Flash, their take on MJ, their take on Ned is maybe the most inexplicable of all of them. So the idea of him getting blown away by Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin makes me very happy. What doesn't make me happy is that instead of finally layering in Uncle Ben into MCU Spider-Man, the underpinning of Spidey's motivation and morality as a superhero, you're going to use the death of Ned Leeds to really hammer that home. So you had Tony Stark be Uncle Ben. Now Ned Leeds is going to be with great power comes great responsibility. Absolutely awful. So I hope that part of it is false. But maybe it's what we all deserve. All the people that just lapped up each and every movie and said that this one's the best one since the last one, the next one's going to be even better than this one kind of deal. Maybe it's what we deserve. And you know, with the talk of the MCU and Sony planning to share the Spider-Man universes, having them all come together, so that lovely Venom franchise that's developing and that Craven solo film and Morbius, yeah, you can all just share the suck and the stink together. Maybe that's what we deserve. This plot leak, if legitimate, continues to hammer home what I believe, which is the MCU's best days are firmly behind it. I do not think if this plot leak comes to fruition, which a lot of it sounds legitimate, I don't think it's going to cure the ills of MCU Spider-Man. Would love to see Tobey Maguire, more of the Raimiverse, back in the mix, though. That excites me. That's the best part, and that's the best Spider-Man we've gotten on film to date. Thanks so much for watching this far, Nerdosphere. Be sure to like and subscribe. Join us on Discord if you have an opinion. bestdamnerdshow.com/Discord. I love interacting with y'all. And, you know, if maybe you got some extra jingle jangle in one of your multiverses, bestdamnerdshow.com/Patreon. We appreciate all your support.